All right. Good morning. Thank you for making time this morning to talk a little bit about your aesthetic business or interest in maybe launching an aesthetic business. Hopefully sound is okay. You guys can hear me okay? All right, cool. So, my name is Patrick Blake. I am a board certified dermatologist in practice here in San Diego. I am also I guess I've been out 10 years now, so I've been in clinician for a long time. I'm also the co-founder and chief medical officer at Portrait. We are the business behind the business, I guess you could say, for dozens of aesthetic providers in about a dozen states, all small businesses. So definitely have a good bit of experience with starting and also growing aesthetic businesses. And at Portrait, we tend to be very fast. We are very fast moving. And so on numerous occasions, we have launched businesses in under 30 days. Our operations team works really hard to make those kind of launches happen and with the right providers, the right goals and mindset that can certainly be done. So I think there's a lot of interest in being entrepreneurs, and I think it kind of lends itself to this specialty where a lot of providers have their own individual goals. A lot of med spa owners have their own goals, their own brand, their own practice philosophies, their own ways of how they want to treat their patients, and so I think there's a good reason why there's a lot of interest in doing this. There's also a lot to doing and a lot that goes into that decision process. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. We should have extra time at the end for questions, so I'll try not to drone on for too long, and hopefully this can be informative. Okay, so doesn't want to. There we go. All right. So the first thing, everything starts with a plan. Goals without a real plan is sometimes a recipe for problems. So I think the really the first thing is thinking, is this the right time to launch or to level up your business? Um, and timing is so important. So the biggest thing is really why do you want to do this? And the reason I say that, not to discourage anyone, but even if you look at founders or owners of really large, successful companies in aesthetics or outside of aesthetics, there are people who, frankly, don't enjoy it. And so there are ways to really think about this and make sure this is the right time for you. And there are a lot of great reasons to do it. And really, the providers who I think when at least when I've gotten into discussions with them who are interested in starting their own aesthetic business have put some thought into it. And sometimes it's because they don't feel respected in their current environment. Sometimes it's someone who's already got a growing business but sees an opportunity to really change their life by further expanding their business. And sometimes it's just there's just a drive there, really, like a passion for the field. And in some ways it's easier to convey that passion when you have more control over the entire patient experience, the entire provider experience. um, your current financial situation, that's obviously really important. A lot of times, depending on if someone is working with a partner company, or if they're really trying to bootstrap things from the beginning, looking at anywhere from several months to get back to your pre you know pre-launch income, or if you really are a business owner without aesthetics knowledge, expect again at least several months and sometimes more like a couple of years to really make that payoff happen. Everyone again who we've worked with has, I think, been really glad they made that decision, but it is something to to think about carefully because it can create a lot of undue stress if you don't have that 6 months or at least few months of savings available. Your current personal life and the commitment. So that if there are people who have come out from maternity leave and launch practices immediately, I just blows my mind, and I respect tremendously. Same thing with folks who have been navigating sick parents. But these are just things to be, realistic about and really think about carefully. Is this something that I'm going to be in the right place to do this, now? And also, again, those are opportunities to look at partners where you think, okay, how can I make this a little bit simpler? How can I carve out more time for myself? Your clinical expertise. So again, opportunity cost. It is going to be, in some ways, it can be easier. Actually, I guess I should say there are many providers who, we've spoken with who I'm sometimes surprised by the lack of opportunities to continue their education and to continue their own growth as providers in the current setup. But in general, it will be a little bit more difficult, particularly again, if you're really more independent, to get that attention and to be able to grow your clinical base while you're also trying to learn a lot of other skills as a business owner. Um, this next question is, who will your first 100 clients be? For us, my feeling is with 100 clients, you can grow an aesthetic business successfully, and seen this many times. And these need to be like, highly aligned people who really see value in you and how you deliver care to them. And I think the other side is it really helps to think about those people and what draws them in. And it helps to really reflect on who you are and what you bring to the table. Sometimes I think it's hard to put it into words, and we want to be, humble as providers, and we just are trying to do our job. But reflecting on who those clients are and what brings them in can really, I think, help you get a sense of what you would want if you do decide to go ahead and launch or level up your business. And then your yes checklist. These to me are the things, it's two things. The yeses of things that I need to have, that I absolutely must have, and yes of things that I'm okay with doing. So it's not really like I'm not willing to do this, or I'm not, I'm avoiding something, but like this is sort of a bit of an accountability check on what I need. Can I do it? And then are these things that are reasonable, that, for my goals? And then your timeline. So that one, I think there are folks who we've talked to again who decide they want to do this and want to launch within a month. There are other people who are looking, a year and a half out, and all of that is fine. And that really dictates the pace of what you're trying to do. If you are trying to do a build out with, tenant improvements, that can be really change things. Okay. All right. So then thinking about the alignment. So this is I think, a useful exercise, just looking at these dynamic tension lines. And this is even if it's just you. If you've got, a business partner, that's important to talk about these things with them. If you've got, you already have a business or multiple locations and you want to look at ways to grow, I think these are also useful, just to think about where you lie on these lines. So as a provider, we're usually looking more for stability. That's something that we've seen it, always um, I think coming from clinical background, right? We always care about, above all, not creating any problems. So stability versus the business is usually more growth oriented. Provider, you usually want a degree at least of work-life balance, and from the business, expecting day and night, just making this your life, your baby, so to speak. As a provider, bringing home money, again, to have a good quality of life, and as a business, just to reinvest into the business. For the provider, I think we want to be able to offer, everything and be everything a lot of times, sorry, a lot of things to our patients. And so this is something where, that's a capital expense. And as a business, we're looking to be efficient from a budget perspective. As a provider, to hire a team where we want to be able to focus on what we need to do, and as a business to handle everything. Sometimes I've seen this also the reverse, where providers, where we want to just control everything, and the business realizes maybe that's not the most efficient way to grow. Um, as a provider, we want uniqueness, where we can really set ourselves apart as special people and as a special company. And as a business, you have to think about broad appeal, that you want marketability and want to be able to reach a wide range of potential clients. As a provider, we want to convey our expertise, and as a business, I think approachability probably matters more. And this is something that I just see, and probably a lot of you will notice if you look on particularly social media, but even the way I think providers convey themselves sometimes, it's kind of like selling the advantage of coming to me, or here's my expertise. And a lot of times I think the material we put out is more related to other providers sometimes than to potential, especially new clients who really don't know much about this specialty. So I think that's important as a business to really focus on approachability. The provider, we want to be, we don't want to fight about pricing. We want to be reasonable. And so market pricing or even lower often is a goal. From a business, you need a margin. So having, good margin can really help the health of the business and gives you more flexibility in the long term. As a provider, every detail matters, right? It's like has to have an A+ on every patient. And as a business, that speed matters. If you have a difficult patient, they want a refund, whatever, who cares? Like let's get them out, move on with our day, get back to work, and it's not something to be emotional over, to really internalize. And again, as a provider, every patient matters, but as a business, you're thinking about customers. Okay. All right, so finding the right partners. So you could handle everything yourself. We have a lot of bright, motivated people in this field, but working with experts is usually worthwhile. And this is kind of practicing what we preach as providers, where you have, patients who try to do everything on their own or just research all day, and that's fine, but time is money. So having a leasing agent or realtor who is knowledgeable and a go-getter, an attorney who is knowledgeable in employment and healthcare law and board regulations. You just, again, I'm in a different world, but seeing these situations that happen, particularly in some states like California, just to be mindful not to create big problems for yourself. And those are really unnecessary stresses. And with the right setup, you don't need to worry about really, getting into any undesirable situations. As a medical director, for a medical director, if you need a medical director, to be experienced in aesthetics, approachable, and helpful. A good communicator goes a long way there. For an accountant, somebody who's proactive and detailed, there are accountants who've seen where they kind of more phone it in, and they'll try to keep you out of a problem with an audit, but they really are not always looking at ways to get you more money to take home and to also reinvest into your business. So somebody who really wants to understand your business and your goals matters a lot. So patient scheduler to handle patient communications, and really that could be a coordinator. Those are people who could be involved in helping to grow or to close marketing. That I think is really helpful, just because for patients when they're looking to book, they're usually looking to book like right now. So if you're working part-time or you're seeing patients, that can be pretty difficult. A designer for web collateral and office space to give really that high-end experience. A lot of times providers, again, have a lot of their own vision here, but I think it's good to at least have someone to bounce ideas off of. And then for business development, someone to help with practice growth, to really talk through business fundamentals and to really, get you looking from a higher level into your business rather than, and this one again, focus more for providers, but all right. Oops. Okay, so not going to plug Portrait too much, but obviously biased here. And I think whether you're starting out already on your aesthetic journey, or I'm sorry, or you're already on it, that Portrait's industry-leading platform can help make your dream business a reality. And we have classically kind of managed the vast majority of businesses with this pre-built offering, although we now also have a customized version called Portrait Flex, where we use our core infrastructure and then kind of it's more a la carte add-ons to help build a sustainable and profitable aesthetic business. And so what I mean by that, um, historically, elements that we've handled, so I'm not going to go through all this would be a very long slide, but real estate, basically everything from the initial sourcing and build out to the lease and any sort of property management services that need to happen, which sometimes can be quite disruptive to manage on your own, actually. So anyway, that's one section. Clinical education. So we do a lot of access to training, have great partnerships with industry and with providers within the portrait ecosystem. So a lot of opportunities there for clinical operations, for medical directors, high quality, good faith exams, just going through everything to make sure that we set up providers to have the best clinical outcomes that are really achievable in aesthetics. Business setup. So this is not the fun stuff, but things that I think can be overwhelming for providers and can take a lot of time and sort of be a little more stressful than one might want. And so we handle, we can handle basically everything from the legal side to business setup and also getting relationships going with accountants and bookkeepers and trying to help an accountability process there so that providers are kind of leveraging our size and our position already, rather than trying to, as an individual, it can sometimes be difficult to be heard. Entity and license support, and then patient communications and scheduling. So our patient care coordinators helping with getting practices transferred, nurture campaigns, membership programs, which can be hugely valuable for driving growth and retention, operations and business growth strategy. So in-office support, planning with events and business coaching, technology, so real-time earnings, integrating with pharma and the loyalty systems, phone lines, just making things feel relatively seamless, because those, again, technology, I think a lot of us think about it more from the outcome side, but for the business operation side, it can really free up a lot of time for you if technology is done well. We've built our own electronic health records, so we have a lot of, I think, deep understanding of what makes for a good workday where you're not burdened by technology. It's really your support, financial backing. So, not people who worked with us typically have not taken on startup costs. They don't have big hits when they're launching. That goes a long way. Inventory and vendor management, a community where we do all kinds of collaborations within and outside of portrait, and really to be a values-driven culture where we really want to be partners, and we also champion providers as their own business. That we're not there are places that are more franchise models or try to kind of downplay providers' individuality. That's certainly contrary to how we operate. So, and this is kind of where I was talking about where there's the Portrait Lux side where we handle, everything, and then Portrait Flex where there's a turnkey core infrastructure and then things are more a la carte. And so the way the revenue is handled is very different where Portrait Lux, because there are all the operational costs, we are incredibly, I think, as generous as we possibly can be in that setup. But when it's Portrait Flex and the provider's handling, the majority of the cost structure, we're able to basically take a small fee in order to facilitate their business. So just different models. Okay, so after, whether you've decided to work with us or you're on your own or other platforms out there, you've decided, hey, I want to do this. All right, so I think, it's writing out your goals and your mission and then set a launch date and work backwards. So let's say you want to do this in a month. If you want to do it in 6 months, that's fine too. Okay, so first, things you're not in control of. Your business name, people go way into this process sometimes, and unfortunately, the business name is already taken. Seen this several times, so just check that business name first. Check that your financial budget and your time budget are aligned, that you actually, can do this. There's always going to be planning fallacies. I think it's good to set ambitious but reasonable, achievable goals too. Explore any necessary financing. Confirm there are no legal blockers. So, if you've got something from previous contracts or you're looking to work in multiple states or something like that, a lot of people are doing that now. There can be some nuances there. So going into the details early on will help determine, these are things that are not in your control. So you want to have that set. Find and signing a lease. So depends on the market. That can be really difficult sometimes. Usually it's not, but I would recommend hitting that early. Forming your corporate structure. In some states, usually this is going to be very fast. There are some states like New York where this will take several months typically or more. So just, um, you know, generally quick, but want to get that going quickly. Um, State professional board documents, county and city permits, and then medical director agreement if you need one, because that may, take some time finding somebody. And then learning what you don't know. So there are so many great podcasts, webinars, and just people who are happy to share information and their knowledge in this field. And really dedicate yourself to that, because you'll find every week, every probably couple of days, I find something or rethink something that I think I know. Okay, for your space, consider any restrictive covenants. You want to do market research, so that can just be phone calls to area places, or going in and trying to get a sense how busy are these people. You want to know your market. You want to be in line with market pricing, and at least when you're first launching, and you really want to be sure that you're setting yourself up for success. Moving is not fun, although we've done it numerous times for providers, so it's not the end of the world, but trying to get off to a good start is worthwhile. Determine what you need now. So you don't have to think about, what I'm going to need in 2 years or 3 years. If you've already got an existing business, that might make more sense. But when you're first maybe in a bit of a cash pinch, don't need to overthink it. Just enough that it's a comfortable working environment for you and for your patients. Consider that current patient base, their expectations. So if you are coming from a boutique type place, you probably aren't going to want to drop that standard at all. If you've looking at your lease length, you can also see, hey, maybe if this isn't great, I want to be able to move. So those are opportunities to really negotiate on the front end with what would make sense for you. Again, a place that's comfortable. Make sure you don't have any OSHA barriers to launching. Sometimes landlords are not going to be well informed on this, so I would recommend doing your own research or talking with an attorney. Check with other tenants at different times and dates. So, you know, maybe the place is great on Tuesday morning, but you also want to work Saturday afternoon, and it's there's no parking, or after 6 o'clock at dusk, you've got different types of people in the area who are going to influence your comfort. So, I've seen that many times. So definitely want to go back, check multiple times that this is the place you want to be. Ordering your furniture, supply chain's gotten better, but it still can be difficult to get furniture in. So doing that pretty early is worthwhile. And then using design tools so that you're measuring twice, cutting once, so to speak. Or you outsource to work with a designer, or again, a company like Portrait. Okay, so partners, choosing your next round of partners, your insurance brokers, they can actually be really helpful. You'd be surprised. We worked with a couple of them who have been really amazing as guides for all kinds of things, and can help you save a lot of money, and be thoughtful about what you need and what you don't need. Your pharma partners, some are going to lean in more with small businesses than others. Device partners, same thing, and some are going to be great about servicing, others not. So different companies have different reputations, and that's something you can talk to people. Always several people if you're really looking to buy a more expensive device, and how that experience has been. Ancillary suppliers, that there are opportunities for group purchasing contracts with most of these suppliers, and you can again cut some costs there, and have that money to go elsewhere in your business. Medical waste disposal. Um, in almost every state, this is required. There are some places where I know folks try to just take it to the city, so to speak, or something like that. Typically, I wouldn't advise that. Usually, there's in most jurisdictions that's not going to be okay. So just something to be aware of. Inexpensive as well. Skincare companies, they can be helpful for launch as well, and doing packages for procedures you're going to have down the line. Compounding pharmacies, patient care coordinator who should be on or off site, they're going to need time to train and really get to know you. So whether you're working with multiple, like a firm offsite, or just an individual, put that time in to train them. Growth partners who are going to help guide you again on what you need for your business, and are going to help hold you accountable. Your referral network, so whether that's typically people in the beauty or wellness industry, but can be people in like florists, or it can be somebody restaurants or caterers or whatever. Just finding out who makes sense for you. Having a launcher or co-launcher, this can be a friend, a spouse, whoever, but somebody who's again going to help double check your work so that you don't have gaps when you're launching, makes it a lot more fun as well. And then your mentors. So try to think, who are the people who I know or who I want to get to know, who I can really help guide me on my next phase of success. Okay, so phase two, defining your brand. You've already put a lot of thought into this probably from those earlier steps and probably over your career, but want to do that and make sure things are consistent. Then the stuff that's not so interesting, EDD paperwork, your bank accounts, financing agreements, getting your pharma account set up, getting a reseller permit, getting your medical waste generator permit, revising your medical documents, so policies and procedures, consent forms, and standing orders. Those are important, and I think they are not something people often enjoy doing, but then you're really going to be set up for your future, and you don't have to look at them again probably for a year or something. Negotiating device pricing, making sure that your SEO is set up well, with Google Business, Facebook, Yelp, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Bing. All of those being available on many different platforms is really going to help your SEO standing, and that goes a long way, especially when you're trying to first get going. People need to be able to find you. And sometimes if someone's coming from a competitor or something, they will be really aggressive, trying to pull your patients or retain patients or whatnot. So I think those things, and it's surprising if you look around, you see maybe, I don't know, half of providers or more who don't have a strong SEO. Completing your website, test the links. Dead links are really unprofessional. Don't want those. Utilities, your business phone system, order signage and collateral. And sometimes that can take a long time where the signs just don't look that good. So again, you want to present well. You want good Wi-Fi as well for your work. So just double check those things. Okay, choosing your tools, making sure that your EHR is designed to fit your needs. Might be a little bit more expensive with one and then another, but some of them I think really can help to make for a elegant clinical flow. Obviously, we have our own perspective, building our own EHR on how important that is. E-prescribing in some states, like again California, that's mandated, but even if it's not, I think it can be. Usually, it's inexpensive, and once you get the hang of it, it's worthwhile. Your patient messaging system, that it should still be secured, even if some people debate whether aesthetics is HIPAA covered, but really it's standard of care. So you want a secure messaging option. Point of sale system and credit card processing, your scheduling and marketing systems, but scheduling again, making sure number one, there are no glitches. Hopefully it's customizable. Marketing that you can do easy campaigns that you're not having to rethink every time you want to reach out to your patients. Your phone systems, your lab ordering, if you are doing particularly more of like wellness or weight loss, a lot of good cash pay companies out there for for your clients, and HR management if you are hiring. Okay, if you are hiring other providers or patient care coordinators, first there are a lot of different ways to go. There are a lot of great recruiting agencies out there. Also talking to pharmaceutical reps, finding out who is looking for different opportunities in your area. If you're looking for someone more junior, just putting posts on Facebook or Instagram can be a great way to get initial interest as well. Same thing for patient care coordinators, really, that there are, I mean, we have just an amazing group of patient care coordinators, and I think what's worked well for us is casting a broad net and then really trying to learn about someone and making sure they're passionate and they love communicating with people, love this specialty. Confirming that the provider is ready. You just don't want any problems, and again, have seen these things happen. So doing the background check, doing a licensure verification, an NPDB query, looking again for their certifications, just making sure that things are accurate. People will say all kinds of things. That's all I can say about that. So it takes not much time, maybe 20 minutes to do this. So worthwhile. Getting a credit score is often a useful indicator on what to expect of someone and their reliability. A reference check as well. Skills assessment. This is just something where, again, see different things where providers sometimes just show up and they start treating patients day one. I would really discourage that, where it's like, our process, again, not that it's the right one, but is to first have people report their skills so that it's also for them to understand where their own gaps are. And I think as most providers, we do understand that, but we also go through a verification process. Certifications are great to have on file if they've got them. Make sure there's a good fit between the provider, clinical director, and or the team as well. That's going to change everything if you have a bad dynamic. Again, particularly in this space where patients are very sensitive to how things are communicated to them. And then just good clinical practice requirements, getting those things knocked out in the event of something happening. Okay, phase three. So suite preparation, getting everything organized, laid out, designed, looking good, and getting your signage up, getting emergency kits together. Again, have seen this with a emergency on like the 10th patient for a provider. So don't wait till you're month two in and start figuring it out then. Set up your computers, your iPad, your phone, check your systems and your progress. Just go back to that initial timeline and make sure that things are looking on track. Learn those loyalty accounts. I think the systems have gotten better, but a lot of suppliers have great loyalty accounts, and you definitely want to leverage those. Try to set up a membership program if you can. I think it's great to launch with that. And it's a great way to, again, retain patients and also to show, that you are bought into your patient the same way they're bought into you. Putting more time into training your PCC and scheduler, and then get the rest of your life together. It's actually going to get busier now, so you really want to, do the best you can. We're all trying to do that, but at launch time, you really want to be able to focus and enjoy that process. Okay, phase four. So signing up that insurance, so medical malpractice, general insurance, umbrella insurance, well worth it, inexpensive, and that's something that I would recommend for anyone, particularly if you're on the higher earner category already, but for any business owner, it's worthwhile. Employment insurance, sign and file your collaboration agreements if they're required in your state. Some states don't require them to be filed, but some do. Create your shopping list. So just make sure that you've got, walk through in your head, this is my day, this is everything I need, this is what's going to happen. Or you can look back, kind of if you're still seeing patients as a provider, what have you needed in your past week with patients so that, again, you're prepared when you do launch. Place those initial orders, tell everyone, so your friends, your family, business, social media, be vulnerable. Vulnerability, it just is such a great way to get people to endear, to you. And I think, again, there's this balance of being experts, but we also, I think it can go a really long way if people, they want to help. And if you feel like you make them feel like you need their help, I think it can be really, a positive experience for everybody. Pre-book your patients if you're able to, or again, get help with all of these things from, again, Portrait or someone who you trust. Okay, so phase five. So look for what's missing. Dry run some mock patients. Have, again, friend, family members come through. Mock problems. What's going to happen if whatever, internet's out. Uh, and there's a OSHA thing that shows up. Whoever, problem with a competitor. And do a dry run inspection. Get your takeaways ready. So, post care marketing materials so that those look really fresh and can be something to really etch in that patient's mind on their experience with you. Recheck your budget, see how bad really you're over, and hopefully adjust so it doesn't get worse. Plan your content generation and marketing campaigns. Plan your promotions. Set that grand opening, and figure out who your partners are going to be for that. And watch content. Just get inspired. Okay, and so this is kind of like the phase six. So this is someone where you've already, you've already launched, you're doing well, and how do you continue to level up? So pursuing consultation, business, and technical training. So many great web resources out there. I was watching things over the weekend on this, and there are a lot of, Patreon accounts, YouTube, like whatever, but again, podcasts, but beyond that, a lot of hands-on in-person training goes a long way as well. Explore business coaches. You don't have to rush into someone. You can always move business coaches, but vet them. and really make sure that they're going to give you the data and the tools you need to move forward. Depends. Some people are looking more again for someone just to, not just to, but to really champion them from like an emotional or goal setting mindset, which is useful. But I think really someone who's going to put the attention to the details on your individual practice goes a long way. Um, Try new marketing strategies. These are going to take, usually months to get a sense of how they're really working, but finding out from patients, obviously how they found you, what they like about coming in, getting reviews, that goes a long way. Tinker with that membership plan, expand what you offer, and you can always take on a mentee, whether that's someone who's another provider or even someone just to expand your business, maybe an esthetician or whatnot. Okay, so that's it. You are ready to launch, and now the real fun starts. I think the launch process, it is stressful, but if you've got the right mindset about it, going into it, I think it can be kind of fun. It's a challenge to embrace, and hopefully then you're set up really for the future where, you're always going to want to iterate. It's not something that you can set it and forget it, but at least you've got the foundational elements in place to really enjoy what we as providers enjoy of treating patients. So we finished early, I think, as hoped. Yes. So happy to answer any questions. Try to be an open book and try to be helpful. Anything?
That was wonderful. Thank you. We do have a few questions here that we can dive into. So the first one we've got, I'm looking to grow and I see a lot of different paths. I could bring on another injector, an esthetician, a device. How do you think about where to start?
Yeah, well, that's a big one. I think, it's sort of well, the first thing is really understanding your patient base, I would say. So um, and folks a lot of times don't do great intake on what their patients are looking for, and that's something that data really helps to drive the decision. So, for instance, if you've got patients who are coming in and they're all and you talk to them and they're interested in skincare or whatnot, but maybe you don't have any um, you know facial setup or microdermabrasion setup or something, maybe it makes sense to go more with an esthetician. If you've got patients who have a base that's maybe a little more, photo damaged or has a lot of skin laxity, okay, then probably the energy-based devices are gonna, have a big impact in your practice. They're gonna fit your patient population. Sometimes it's also just thinking about what you enjoy too, that some people love teaching. And so even if it's going to take a long time and you're going to have the challenges of that trust exercise of sharing your patients, it's, they really, it's worth bringing on another provider because you're going to love being a mentor to them. So I think kind of thinking about what your patients want and what you would enjoy doing is a good way to go about it. Trying to do some financial projections and things obviously important too, but philosophically, maybe that's where I would start.
That's great. What mistakes have you seen new businesses make?
I tried to hit on a couple of them. I think the really the biggest thing, it's the same thing with patients, I guess. I think about this stuff still as a clinician. Expectation setting that this is supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be challenging. It's supposed to, push you and force you to learn new skills or to grow as an individual. And that, I think, going in with that mindset that this is gonna be a bit of a struggle, and maybe it won't be. And that happens sometimes where it's just like, I don't know, everything clicks perfectly and it's so easy and etc. But I think if you go in with the mindset of this is going to be a challenge and I'm ready for it, that is going to really make it a lot more fun. And where I think providers sometimes, and again, I'm not seeing non-clinician owners, I just haven't worked with them, personally. We're starting to do that, but I think for providers, where sometimes even early on they're saying, well, I want to just focus on treating patients. I just want to bring in new patients or whatever. Well, unfortunately, that's just not how it works. And I don't mean that to sound dismissive because as a business owner, believe me, I definitely vent. So no judgment there, but I think having that right mindset goes a really long way. The other one is just maybe doing the stuff that you don't want to deal with. I kind of hit on that a little bit, but filings and making sure all your paperwork is in order and agreements are all set and things like that. I was talking to a provider recently who had worked, not portrait provider, who had been in a business contract and, basically was swindled out of, 6 figures in revenue recently. And those are just, that makes it really hard to enjoy the process. So going through everything with a high level of detail and not, not glossing over anything. I'd say those are the two things I've seen.
Okay, this next one, I have 3 locations, and although I'm doing well financially, I'm stressed out and not enjoying the success. I feel like I have to grow, but just treading water is difficult already. Thinking about selling. Any guidance?
So on the selling side, it's a good time, I think, to sell. There's obviously a ton of interest in acquiring, aesthetic practices. So it's certainly worth exploring. Um, I don't want to get too far into those details, but um, there are some firms that are great, or from what I've heard, are great to sell into, and they've been a really positive experience for people who have sold. Others where they regret it or they get into difficult situations. So if it's really into that detailed element of the selling, obviously getting proof of principle from other people who've sold to them and really taking your time. The other side, I would say, is look for the things that are really, um, you know, the things that are really draining you. And maybe it's just a few patients who need to, be canned. Maybe it's a staff member who is just disruptive. Maybe it's that you know, don't want to manage every last thing, about your business. And I mean, that's another motion we have of working with existing med spas to help providers kind of get more balance in their life. Exhaustion is a real thing. So I think looking for what it without knowing what it is that is making you feel that way. It's a little hard to say, but I think exploring that is really important.
Great. The next one, I want to do this, but need the stability of a job. Have you seen people be successful in the setup?
So I guess maybe this is like someone where I'm just assuming here. I could be wrong, but like either where they're in a med spa and want to have like a concierge thing, or maybe they're in a oh, sorry, I'm on my phone here. This is up. Um, or maybe they're in a, like a hospital setting or something and want to, work in the ER, but also have to start an aesthetic practice. So yeah, certainly have. It's slower for sure because you only have so much time in the day, and also there is going to be that cushion, so it's easy to kind of navigate back towards what we know, I think, as individuals, but um, certainly works, and it does make it less stressful in a way, on the financial side. It can make it a little bit trickier, I think, for getting time. The thing there, I would say, is just being practical if you do go that route and not overthinking it. Try to keep things really simple. You don't need to work with like 4 different suppliers and have this and do that, and 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 really go crazy on your social media day in, day out. So finding a way to kind of again set expectations with yourself on how much time can I put into this.
Great. And let's see. Okay. And then one last question. We've got hi, you had 2 options of working with portrait. Can you briefly describe the 2 differences real quick? I realize you can't get into this detail. What are the services portrait is allowing providers to have on board? I realize this can be specific to knowledge base of that provider, however, someone that has 16 years in the industry.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, Yeah, I'll give the context that classically, right, again, we've had this portrait Lux model, where we have to be a little bit more prescriptive maybe than we might like to be because we have our own professional corporation. We face a lot of regulatory scrutiny, which is kind of a bit silly and sometimes frustrating because we are so above board on everything, but that's the reality of the world we're in. So, for instance, we haven't historically done like hormone therapy. I'm just picking that as an example. And part of that is because I honestly don't feel like I know hormone therapy that well, and collectively, I don't think we do as a company. So we haven't wanted to bring on things that we don't feel like we can do well. That said, what we've done instead more recently is set people up where that side of things is sort of managed outside of portrait, with an individual professional corporation or whatnot. And that can be when there is there's like as long as there's a medical director who's okay with it. I'm assuming, if you're not a physician, but that would be um, of concern. But that's worked well. So we have some people who are bringing on services, cadaveric fat or things like that that we haven't historically done. And it's easier in that portrait flex model as well because just the way the structures work, we kind of are more of a business support company in that setup. And then there's more flexibility as long as provider and medical director are aligned. So um, pretty wide open really in terms of what as long as things are legally permissible, but other than that, pretty open. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this was helpful. My contact information is here too. Probably the Instagram's the easier way if you do want to reach out anytime. Again, try to be straightforward and just I love this field and I love the passion that people have and the degree of entrepreneurship that has already formed and I think is continuing to develop in this space. So always love talking aesthetics, always love talking entrepreneurship, and don't hesitate to reach out anytime.